Call to order the Lewisville Town Council, the meeting of March 2013. Our custom, we call the roll of our members by introducing each of our council to the public. To my right is our Mayor Pro Tem, Sandra Mock, followed by, to the right, by Councilman Ed Smith, Councilman Fred Franklin. To my left, Councilman Robert Green, Councilman Tom Lawson, and Councilman Jeff Singer. Have our staff with us tonight, led by our town manager, Mr. Hank Perkins, town attorney, Bo Howe, our town clerk, Ms. Joyce Walker, and our assistant town manager and finance officer, Kathy Bruce. With that, we welcome those in our audience to tonight's meeting. We appreciate your attendance. Always appreciate the involvement of our citizens, and we thank you for taking time out of what I'm sure is busy schedules to be with us tonight. With that, we have an agenda for tonight's meeting. There are copies on the table at the rear if anyone would like to follow along on tonight's meeting via the. I think we have somewhat of a change.
Yes, I do have one.
Actually, it's a printed
I have
agenda.
one request, if we can. I would like to remove item 6B from the consent agenda and place it on the regular agenda for some brief discussion.
With that change, I think the remainder of the agenda is we approved in
Yes,
our
sir.
briefing.
Yes, that is the only thing that we have different.
The council a moment to look through the agenda with that change. It's going to be okay. Entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved with the changes proposed by the manager, Mr. Perkins. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, that will then take us to the consent agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, the consent agenda this evening is made up of number 1, resolution 2013-007 for acceptance and approval of monthly financials for January 2013. Number 2, the approval of council retreat minutes from February 1st, 2013. Number 3, the approval of council retreat minutes from February 2nd, 2013. Number 4, the approval of council briefing and action minutes from February 7th, 2013. Number 5, the approval of council regular meeting minutes from February 14th of 2013. And then 6A, under budget items requiring formal approval, we have resolution 2013-009, approving the contract with Gibson and Company, PA, for auditing services in the amount of $16,870 for the fiscal year 2012-2013. And then lastly, we have number 7, resolution 2013-006, accepting the resignation of James Arnell from the Lewisville Beautification Committee. And all of this material has been discussed last week to some extent and is located in your agenda packets this evening.
Council members, do you have any questions of the manager over any of the items that we've covered in the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
No further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, consent agenda is approved. Now, where did we move that one item to?
Let's see, Joyce, what would you recommend?
I moved it to 10F.
All right, if council is in agreement, we'll move that item to 10F.
Okay. Looks like a good place to park it.
Okay?
Pick it up when we get there. Okay. Brings us to the next item.
Okay, the next section is for presentations and/or proclamations. First is under consent proclamation, Proclamation 2013002 for Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week. And the second B for presentations, there are none.
Okay. The proclamation for the Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week, this has been something that we as a council have brought before the public and brought before our citizens in years past. I think we're all aware of the devastation that this disease brings to not only to our citizens, but citizens across the state and our nation. I've seen one statistic where that basically there's a new diagnosis of multiple sclerosis or MS on an hourly basis, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And there's actually, I think, some 10,000 North Carolinians that have been afflicted by this disease. So it is certainly something to be, to give notoriety to and to bring forth an awareness to our public. And we do that in a proclamation and we tonight it's by a consent proclamation. So rather than to read each of the items in the proclamation, we'll just adopt it by consent. If that's in agreement with the council. We have a motion for that. Motion approved. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Proclamation 2013-002 is approved, bringing Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week to our citizens. Next item.
Okay, the next item would be the public forum.
Okay, this is the first of two opportunities that we have for anyone in the public to address council. Very simply, we ask that you come to the podium, to the microphone here in the center, that you state your name, your address, and we do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes if at all possible. This is an opportunity for you to tell us what's on your mind. It could be something on tonight's agenda, or it could be something that's just very important to you and that you want to bring awareness to also. So it's kind of a one-way conversation. We listen to what you have to say. We don't necessarily go into discourse or dialogue with you on any of the matters that you may bring at this time. Not to say that we don't take it very seriously, and we will certainly give it due diligence. We have, I think, some that have signed up. Oh, here it is. Dorothy Sires.
Good evening. My name is Dorothy Sayers. I live at 412 Rolandville Drive here in Lewisville, and I'm here representing Friends of Lewisville Library. I hope that many of you know who we are and what we do, and the most important thing we do is raise money, add memberships, and have people come to the library to make use of the facilities, and we supply library needs that are not supplied to our library by Forsyth County. One of the things that we're all aware of is how we're getting new businesses in town. So we have members, mostly seniors, but we have families and we have individuals. We do not have any businesses that are now members of our Friends of Lewisville Library. So one of the things that we thought might be a good thing to do is to publish a directory. In essence, it would be like selling an ad, but if we put the directory together, that would give those people a membership in our organization. At the same time, it's helping us to raise money. So what we're proposing is that we don't know exactly how many businesses we have in town. There are some little mom and pops that we don't know. And we wondered if the town would supply us with a list of the local businesses owners' names if possible, so we're not kind of going in cold. And what we would do is publish this directory, and that would be, the printing is what would be the most expensive item here. So what we're saying is that if the town council, we know about budget controls, but if it would be possible to receive some monies toward the printing, and we're thinking in terms of at least $1,000, or if there's grant money available to help us do this, we would share a picture on the cover of Town Hall along with the library. We do whatever else, give all the credits, but it's one way that we can increase our membership, and it's one of the things that we think the town really needs as we're growing in small businesses. Two of my co-workers in the library are here to fill you in on some of the details for what we're hoping to do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pam White, and I live at 1980 Turkey Lane in Toptown, but I'm on the board of the Friends of the Lewisville Library. I just want to dazzle you with some numbers briefly. I'm not going to bore you. Well, we think if we do the directories, we are looking at distributing them in a number of ways. One would be through the circulation desk at the library to the regular library patrons. We also give each new library member a welcome kit that contains a bunch of information about the library and some other things. Last year through September, we had 864 new members in the library. That's 864 people who would have an opportunity to get a copy of the business directory as an introduction to Lewisville and the area businesses. We have 146 members in our Friends organization, and 40% of those members live outside of Lewisville, myself included. I think the demographics of the library user population is probably fairly similar to that. So you'd be reaching people outside of Lewisville and introducing them to our local businesses. We also would be distributing this at our recurring Friends events. That's our Antiques Appraisal Fair, which is this Saturday from 9 to 1, our 2 book sales in the spring and in the fall, and our annual summer yard sale. And last year, attendance at all of those programs was 1,048 people. As you can see from these brief numbers, this is an opportunity to get some tremendous exposure for the businesses in town, and we would really appreciate any help that you could give us in this adventure. Thank you.
My name's Susan Golden. I live at 160 Shalford Reserve Drive, and I'm also a member of the Friends of the Library Board. I wanted to tell you the reason that we're printing the brochure, besides, I guess, helping the town and getting business members, is that the library needs some new children's computers, and they're really expensive because they're $3,400 a piece, which sounds a little odd in this computer environment, but they come fully loaded with child-appropriate software, and those are the ones that the Forsyth County Library, in their wisdom, deems the libraries ought to have, and we'd like to be able to purchase 2 of those. So that's our targeted fundraising for this year. Last year, of course, it was the handicap doors, which I would say have been extremely popular and used by most everybody who comes to the library. So that's the purpose, is really the fundraising, to buy at least 2 children's computers, and we would love to be able to buy 3 of those. They just don't have enough. We don't want to use the money for printing the brochures that could be used for the computers, obviously. That's the reason for the request. And we think it would send people to local businesses, and it would be good for our local businesses, especially the new ones. I just wanted to show you, this is how we envision the brochure to be. We don't know how many pages, of course, but this size, stapled and printed. And they would be, first of all, in all the newcomers packages for everybody who gets a library card. And there are other goodies in there about the library and magnets or whatever doodads we've purchased to welcome newcomers at the site, and we would like to include one of those. And of course, all the businesses that sign up would have them available at their businesses to distribute. And they would be available at Town Hall as well. I know you welcome newcomers also. And I think that's all that I mentioned. Everything. I think that's all I have to say as well, and I hope you'll consider our proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's the extent of those who signed up ahead of our meeting tonight. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on this particular subject or other subjects that you might have interest in? If not, we have forms at the rear of the chamber that actually has a way of making written comments, and then that can be sent to us that way also. So we will close the public forum. And for the, and thank the Friends of the Library, one, for coming tonight, sharing with us, and two, thank you so much for the good work that you do for our community and for all the patrons of the library. We do have a,
If I might, before we move off of this subject, before the ladies leave, I would like to encourage you to contact our town staff. We have a process for a grant proposal. Matter of fact, we have one under consideration tonight from the Civics Club. So we actually have a subcommittee that considers the proposals and then makes a recommendation to the full council as to whether to fund something like this. So if you would, please contact our staff, let them provide you some guidance of how to go about that process and get that grant proposal submitted for consideration by our special projects committee.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you, we didn't know.
Then after we assess it, then we'll make a recommendation to the full council.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Now you're aware it was like.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out to come before us tonight.
next item on our agenda.
Section 5, for purchase and contracts, there are none for consideration on the agenda this evening. The next section, section 6, these are for board and committee appointments. You've got for you the packets and the voting information for each of the boards that have vacancies for consideration this evening. I guess for brevity's sake, let me just remind everyone that with the exception of Parks and Recreation and Cultural Development, recommendation for each of these is to reappoint the incumbent members of the committees that have requested reappointment to these committees. And Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Development Board, that being different, while we have 3 for you to consider this evening, we only have 2 of the existing members of the Parks and Rec Board that are desirous of coming back to the board. For the 3rd position, the recommendation is Miss Marcy Thompson-Galvin. And that's pretty much the extent of my comments.
Do we, Ms. Walker, maybe ask you this, do you want us to fill out the ballots for all positions and then you'll take them all at one time? Give us a few minutes for this. Can we proceed?
Yes, sir, I would recommend we go ahead while those are being tallied up. Under section number 7, old business, there is none for consideration this evening. Number 8, public hearings, there are none this evening scheduled. The next section 9, unfinished business, there is none on the agenda for this evening for consideration. Brings us to section 10 for new business. A, under section 10, is the Public Safety Advisory Committee meeting changes. We have consideration of resolution 2013-008, changing the PSAC charter to reflect the number of meetings per year. And I'll go ahead and just describe the second part as well. Accompanying that will be amending the meeting schedule to reflect the PSAC meeting changes, assuming that is done.
Okay. I think we did discuss this certainly
Yes, sir.
at our briefing this past week. Have any questions of the manager or of the town clerk concerning this request that actually came from the Public Safety Advisory Committee on Resolution 2013-008?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve resolution 008.
We have a second. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that resolution passes, changing the meeting dates. And then the meeting schedule, amending the meeting schedule to reflect these changes. We have to do that
Yes, sir.
formally? Okay. What's your pleasure, council?
Motion approved. Second.
Do we have a second? Another second from Mr. Franklin? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item.
Okay, next item would be, item B, Resolution 2013-011. This would be setting a public hearing to receive comments on UDO case L-142, amending landscaping ordinance. At this point, at this time, the staff recommendation is that you table the consideration of this resolution until an undetermined date in the future for the purposes of further consideration of tree canopy ordinances and things that are associated with this landscaping proposal.
Would they be combined as far as a public hearing, or do we have to have a separate public hearing on each of those?
When they come, it depends. One thing that may happen is there may be a suggestion that, in fact, those documents may be combined. I don't know whether that's presently under consideration. The planning board looked last night at the tree canopy ordinance, and depending on how that works, it's conceivable that they may be combined. But whether they're combined or not, there's going to be references one to the other. If they are proposed separately, then there would be two separate public hearings. And they wouldn't have to happen at the same time, but it probably makes sense for them to take place at the same time because they're intertwined.
Any questions?
Do we need a formal motion to table?
Yes.
If so, I make that motion.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Any additional questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we have the tabled resolution 2013-011 to the undetermined date.
Thank you.
Next item.
Under section C, resolution 2013-012, this would be for amending chapter 16, article 2-14 of the Lewisville Code, Town Code, by adding FCSO Explorer Post 975 and Rotary Club of Western Forsyth County to the list of exempt users of town facilities. This again was an item discussed last week at our town briefing.
For the public's information, that FCSO is Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, and they are the sponsors of Explorer Post 975. Any questions, council, of the manager concerning this resolution?
I'll move approval of resolution 012.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that resolution passes also.
Okay. Under D, we have ordinance 2013-006, amending budget ordinance 2012-015 in an amount of $900 as recommended by the Special Projects Review Committee for the request from the Lewisville Civic Club to be used toward their spring 2013 festival in the square.
Who's going to speak for the special?
I will.
Okay,
After our briefing last week, the Special Projects Committee did get together. The committee consists of Jeff, myself, and Robert. As you well know, council members, we've had a presentation by Tom Walbert about the planning that the Civics Club had done for a new event to take place in the town of Lewisville each year, called the Festival in the Square. This being their first year starting this festival up, they came to us with a request for $900 as seed money, if you will. Didn't have a specific purpose, if you will, for that particular $900, but that's the reason it was termed as seed money. What I'd like to do, probably in a roundabout way before I get done with some notes that are helpful here, is to make a motion that we actually approve the ordinance 2013-006, which is the Civics Club request for $900 for the festival in the square. I also like to have some caveats on that ask for after project completion to receive the actual revenues and expenditures report that they were planning to generate anyhow for the Civics Club's purposes. For the entire project within 30 days after project completion as required by the Special Projects Committee, if you will. This will verify how the funds were spent and that they were needed to complete the project based on their budget for the project that they provided. And they provided us quite a bit of detail in their proposal of the overall financial picture, if you will. We just sort of would like to get a feel for if they were to come back another year with a request of how they're spending that money. We fully believe as a committee that basically everything the Civics Club sets about to do is successful. We don't know that they'll ever have another request for this particular project because they are so successful in their endeavors. But, you know, this being the first go-round, our recommendation to the full council is that we approve this project for $900. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Second. Second for that. Now time for questions. I might have one of our finance officer. Are we in good standing for something of this nature without it being a specific item for the expenditure?
Yes, sir, you are doing public purpose as a county, putting on test on the county, after that, and the public purpose statute. So therefore, you are allowed to give that notice to the city club. And as well, Councilman Franklin is correct that the Special Projects Review Committee in the charter, so to speak, does have the right to ask for after project expenditures, explanations, and in their packet, they specifically gave a testable budget, revenues and expenditures, and we would like to see that within the 30-day mark as required by the project committee. So you're good to go.
Good, great. That 30-day period, is that from the date of granting the request?
No,
or is
it's
it
after the project.
the event itself? Okay, very good. Anyone else have a question? No, super, thank you for the report, the motion, and the second. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify, you did want the notation about after the project is completed with the expenditures after 30 days as part of your motion?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to make
Yes.
sure, because that's what I.
You can have my clarification notes a little later if you need. But you're correct, yes.
No further questions, we'll ask, we did have a motion and a second. What's your pleasure? Well, I know what your pleasure is, excuse me. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you for the work that the committee does, and it looks like you're gonna have another item on your agenda.
I believe so.
For another meeting. Okay, next item.
Okay, next item is E. This is ordinance 2013-007, amending Town Code, Chapter 8-2, regarding the regulation of legally carrying a concealed handgun. We have included the ordinance recommendation within your packets this evening. This was a subject that was discussed last week at our meeting. The material that you will end up seeing is to remove the long and short of it, to remove the words "and parks" from our current ordinance, therefore clarifying and solidifying our position legally for concealed carry in town facilities.
Where does that ordinance start in our packet? Like page number?
They've got it on the big screen right in front of you.
Oh. High tech, okay, thank you.
And I have to apologize, for some odd reason, PDF will not show the strikeout, so everything that we're deleting is black with yellow highlight, and those items that are being added in are red, bold, and yellow highlight.
Maybe for the record and for benefit of the public, can our manager or our attorney kind of summarize an executive summary type form?
I'll defer to our town attorney.
Yes.
Yes, in 2000, this town had a concealed weapons ordinance that, as you may have surmised, included in it language about parks as being a location where weapons could not be carried in town. We've had that for a number of years. However, in 2011, the North Carolina legislature deemed it appropriate to limit what sorts of restrictions might be placed on the carrying of concealed weapons in parks, and they took great pains in trying to make sure that this was going to be something that was uniformly adopted and applied throughout the state. And so with an encouragement that in fact those weapons be allowed in parks, and that even where those weapons might be not allowed, that they would still be allowed to be kept in vehicles, in glove boxes, and other compartments. And so in order, and municipalities and counties have reacted differently, depending on where they were in the state and what their citizens wanted. We had the alternative of kind of circumscribing specific areas within parks, deemed to be recreational facilities. It was a very difficult kind of thing to do, and so the determination was made during the discussions last week that council wished to simply not include parks as a restricted area for being able to carry weapons, in order to pretty much abide by what the state legislature wished, and recognizing some of the practical and logistical difficulties with it. It was determined by council and asked for this ordinance to be brought this evening, modifying the town's ordinance. Is that sufficient?
Unless there's questions, any of the details by council, that's very good. Thank you. Appreciate that information.
One quick question for both. So by doing this, then it places our local ordinance in consistency with the state statute this time. My understanding of our discussion last week was that our ordinance was no longer consistent with the state's.
You're correct on both counts, Mr. Rawson. By virtue of the statute, it rendered our ordinance ineffective, and arguably, since we didn't have a severance clause in it, conceivably, it could have been argued that even the remaining locations where we didn't want to have weapons, for example, in this facility, would not be enforceable. We didn't talk about that last week, but we didn't have a severability clause in our ordinance, so that if any part of it is deemed not enforceable, arguably, then none of it could be enforceable. So by modifying the ordinance tonight to eliminate the parks, we have made sure that the remaining prohibitions are going to be effective. Thank you.
Any other questions of our attorney or our manager on this?
Just so that the public knows that the state provision or the state statute, it says, for purposes of this section, the term recreational facilities includes only the following: a playground, an athletic field, a swimming pool, and an athletic facility. So concealed carry weapons are still prohibited from those particular venues. So they're not gonna be in a playground, they may still be allowed in a park, you know, and that's why we're looking at this change in our ordinance. And
Well, Mr. Franklin, that's not what the effect of this ordinance is, to do that.
that's my understanding from last week, but
Our ordinance eliminates parks from the areas for which weapons are prohibited.
But if there were a playground within that park,
We could, what this does not prohibit those weapons in any parks or recreational facilities as the ordinance has been prepared. So that it would not disallow, for example, playgrounds from concealed weapons. My recollection of the discussion last week, and I certainly stand to be corrected, I've been corrected more times today on other things, but was that because of the difficulties in enforcement of that, because playground facilities aren't always very well limited in where exactly they are. Similarly for athletic fields, it's not always sure exactly where those start and where they stop. It was our understanding that you wish to remove those from the prohibition. And so, yes, you're correct in that, following the statute, our ordinance could prohibit concealed weapons in the areas you described, recreational facilities, which are playgrounds, athletic fields, swimming pools, and athletic facilities. We could still prohibit those there.
no, I guess
But
my,
this ordinance does not do that.
I guess my question though, and maybe let me rephrase it to this way, if a law enforcement officer were to walk into a playground, whether it's signed by us as far as postings or anything, they could apply the state statute, correctly?
This statute limits how much you can prohibit. What it says is,
I understand that, but what I'm getting at is if there was.
the statute does not prohibit firearms anywhere. What it does is tells towns that they cannot prohibit firearms in certain places.
Other
It's the
than
state
for-
statute.
This is
other
the
than
state
these four
statute.
that are-
It says, what it says is, except for playgrounds, athletic fields, et cetera, towns may not prohibit. And so you still can do it, this ordinance does not do that. And the state statute does not prohibit anything, it just simply tells towns what they may and may not do. So for example, Shalford Square under the gazebo, it does not fit in any of those descriptions, and so the state statute says you can't prohibit concealed weapons there. You can prohibit them in the playground that's next door, or the playground at Jack Warren Park, if you're inclined to do that. Our ordinance does not do that. It's
Okay.
been drafted for tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions concerning the ordinance or any of the clarification on where the weapons are allowed or not allowed?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 007.
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you both for your interpretation and clarification.
Yes, sir.
You got out of it without a correction.
So far.
Down to administrative report, you having a good night?
That brings us to the item that we moved from the consent
Yes.
agenda.
We have consideration of resolution 2013-010, and this is for the approving of the contract with Hale Artificier, I guess is if I'm pronouncing this right, Incorporated, in the amount of $10,000 to provide a pyrotechnic show for the town's Independence Day celebration. I don't mean to belabor the conversation one bit, but I do feel like the conversation that we had last week during our meeting was widely debated back and forth on the issue, and I felt like there may be some room for some unclearness on the position of the fire department and the position of the fire marshal's office regarding the shells and the fireworks celebration at Shalford Square. I have invited our fire chief this evening to address the town council and to talk about the fire department's position and their by extension, the position of the fire marshal, and let the board carry on after this information and the opportunity to ask questions. It by no means changes the recommendation at this point from staff on what we have for consideration. I felt like you were just due this opportunity, the ability to get it straight from the horse's mouth.
That's agreeable to council. Well, we're honored to have the presence of our fire chief tonight, Chief Alvin. Thank you for being with us.
Mayor, council, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all this evening in regards to the fireworks. We're at a little bit of a quandary with the fireworks show. Just a quick background. Lynn and I work very close in regards to the fireworks show. We meet before the event in regards to planning of the event, how things are going to be laid out at the event. And then we also talk after events as well in regards to how things went. Is there anything that we can improve? Were there any concerns or issues in regards to the event? How to alleviate those in the future? At this particular show, we noticed that there was a lot of fallout in the crowd. And I don't know how many of you come to the fireworks event here in Lewisville. It's a great event. I'm very proud to be affiliated with the town in this event, and it's great to see all the folks come out and enjoy it. With that, however, though, our square gets quite crowded now. This was my 10th year here, and it has continued to grow. Like I said, it gets pretty crowded there. The issue that was observed at this last show, again, was the fallout into the crowd. The area that, the shoot site area, as long as the fireworks go straight up and straight down, the fallout goes straight down, we're okay. The problem is when we run into some westerly winds and it carries the fallout over into the crowd. Like I said, I observed it personally. It was quite a bit this last show. And I also received a phone call the very next day from a concerned citizen in regards to it, and she was explaining to me some issues that had occurred around her. After I took that phone call from her, I then contacted Lynn and said, Lynn, it's time that we do something different. Unfortunately, we cannot control the wind, and that is the issue that I see here is the wind causes, when the wind blows from the westerly direction, we have problems. And we discussed some different options in regards to it, and one of those options was shooting smaller shells. This was discussed with Hill Fisher, the company that does the shooting, and that was their recommendation. We also talked about moving the fireworks, again, because knowing how many people love the fireworks, I know in the past it was moved to a different site and caused some problems. And so we wanted to try to make the show spectacular for everyone to enjoy and not take away anything from it, but still address the issues of safety. So anyway, the best recommendation that we could come up with at the time was to reduce the size of the shells, limit how high they go up, and hopefully prevent where the fallout is.
One of the questions, I guess, that council has had, among other questions, is that limiting the height, will it, we have a tremendous amount of our viewers that are not just in the square, but they're everywhere from the church parking lots all the way down to the Methodist church, and then even on the not the roundabouts, but the entrances to the roundabouts. that was a concern, as to when we talk about smaller shells, what does that really mean? And then we were told by, I guess, Mr. Hale, and I think that we were talking about the smaller shells would basically shorten the distance or the height, only something 50, 60 feet, somewhere in that category. I guess different ones would be affected by it. Is that your opinion also, or at least your knowledge base on that particular issue?
When the shells do get reduced, it will reduce the height that they're shot. Now, as in regards to what impact it has on the viewing, I can't tell you. I mean, it could impact what people see in those areas that you're talking about. I just don't know.
Well, we've been at least given, a height differentiation of some 50 feet or thereabouts. And with the height that they went last year and the years past, that's not much of a reduction, really and truly. So if that would, I think we came to the conclusion that we could live with that as far as that goes. Anyone else have any questions of do you mind taking questions from the panel?
What do you see as the longevity of our current site? Obviously, it's in an area that we would anticipate would continue to grow with new businesses and construction and so forth. What does the fire department look at? At what point would you think might trigger where your recommendation would be this site is no longer viable for this particular purpose?
If any of those current vacant lots are developed, anything's built upon, that will eliminate it from that particular site.
Anywhere in that end?
The fire marshal's office and I have discussed this. It's a tight area. It's a very tight area. And, we understand how the event is, how great it is, and trying to accomplish what the town wants to accomplish with the event, at the same time address the safety issues. And we go to a little bit extra in regards to fire protection to make sure that the area that we have, because it is tight, that we're on top of things. Yeah, if anything is built in that circumference where the current shoot site is, then that will eliminate that particular shoot site.
What does the department view as the ideal situation? When the time comes that it becomes necessary to locate another site, if anything was possible, what would be the fire department's desire in terms of space or that kind of thing, the sorts of criteria you would look at?
A big open field, somewhere where you can control access to it. There's
Any acreage requirements or anything that they generally use as a guideline when they're looking to cite an event like this?
I don't have any numbers off the top of my head, but again, depending on where the site is, you can increase your shells, obviously go higher into the air. If the site is such that you can't see it with the current size of shells that you're being used, you can increase the size of the shells. Again, if you have that space to expand the fallout area.
Scott, I would assume, though, that truth to be known, if I could shoot, or not I, but if fireworks can be shot off at BB&T Baseball Park with Business 40 and, the housing that's just on close by and so forth, the old Ernie Shore Field with the structures that are around it, the fairgrounds fireworks are shot off at one of the East Classic Fairs in town. With that being said, I would assume that we could always find a place, in essence, close by where we're currently shooting them at, because of the fact that, it can be done in locations like that, but you're going to continue to diminish the height of the shells as far as if more development occurred. Would that be a safe assumption that, we could do literally a ground show, if you will, and get by with it in the middle of the Key Street,
Right.
and go up certain, so I mean, what I'm getting at is just because another lot gets developed is not necessarily the end of it, but it forces more tougher decisions on down the road about how to go about to do it.
That's correct.
I mean, and then one other question, is there any guidelines, ASTM or NFPA or anywhere that says that prevailing winds should be below a certain amount, like a go, no go? And if it was pouring down rain, we're not gonna shoot them off. And if we had certain wind conditions, maybe that would be a signal for a no-go to prevent the fallout. Is there anything that's out there that you're aware of?
I'm sure there is, I don't know off the top of my head. But
Maybe that'd be something good to do a little research on, I'm sure somebody is taking all that into account. We're not the first municipality to face fallout problems, trying to get by, so. And that may be something that in the future contracts that we do with a vendor, we have some clause in there that says if wind speed is such and such direction and such mile per hour, it's a no-go, just like it was thunder and lightning and pouring down rain. We shoot them the next night or make an attempt for it. So if we could maybe uncover something along those lines as we go forward, that might be beneficial.
One issue in regards to winds, and I'm by no means a meteorologist or weatherman, but sometimes your winds on the ground are different than the winds aloft. And that's, we've kind of seen that in shooting and fireworks, is the winds aloft are a little bit higher than what they are on the ground.
That's true.
And again, the issue is where the crowd is at the square is in the direction when there's a westerly wind, they're in the fallout.
Of course, I know the fire marshal comes into play on final authorization, but it would be the recommendation of the, if we hold them where we're currently holding them, from our fire department to go to the smaller shells. That's the recommendation. But then, you have a feel for the fire marshal that he'd be accepting that recommendation as a final authority.
I believe you would.
Any other questions?
Is the issue with the fallout that it's still hot when it's hitting the ground, is that the, we for years, where I sit, we've had the fallout come down all the time. Is that the issue, or is it, and the reason I'm asking that is because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going, well, if we shoot shorter shells, they don't go up as high. In my mind, they have 50 or 60 less feet to burn out before they hit the ground. I mean, I just kind of struck me when I was sitting here. Is that a wrong assumption, or?
My concern is the fallout that's still burning, that's correct.
Okay.
And that was what the complaint that I received and what I observed along with other folks in the fire department.
Right.
At the last show, we observed burning embers falling into the crowd.
So then here's my question, and I'm just trying to think through this thing, but it almost to me makes sense that they should go higher so that they burn out before they hit the ground. I mean, it seems to me if we're trying to get it to burn out before it hits the ground, if we shorten the distance, that we're increasing the opportunity for them to be hot when they hit the ground. That's just my.
Logical thinking.
Yeah, I'm not, how artificial would have to answer that question for you in regards to that. I can't give you a good answer for that. I understand what you're saying.
There's a certain separation out between the crowd and where the fireworks are being set from. So I guess the canopy is the term that we've used earlier, maybe a little shorter distance for that fallout to travel if the height is as well. So you may end up in fact
So that's the other trade-off.
having it's still burning by the time it hits the ground, it's just not going to travel as far by the time it hits the ground.
Right.
The area closer in could be at higher risk.
That's
The
certainly
areas
true.
out farther out would be at a reduced risk.
Right. I think that's probably the only thing I can think of as a logical answer for that, is in both cases you're subject to getting the debris fallout from it, but the distance that debris is going to travel, I guess,
They land in the lot, you're not on.
It should be in a tighter circumference to the set-off point.
Makes sense also.
Okay.
Thank you.
And who determines that? Hale determines what the perimeter is for that fallout?
The Hale has to shoot in accordance with, Fred mentioned NFPA standards, that's National Fire Protection Association standards. And that's the standard that determines the circumference for the fallout area. So again, as you increase in shell size, it increases that circumference.
But who actually physically marks that circumference? Do they?
Hale does it, and in the fire marshal's office, and we work with the fire marshal's office in verifying that what they're shooting falls within the circumference that they're saying.
And Hale did recommend, if I'm correct, the shorter shells or smaller shells.
So Hale's the one that's determining what the circumference is, and then we'll verify.
Okay.
What's your pleasure on that resolution?
Make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
So, second.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're gonna have a fireworks display.
Okay. Moving on to administrative reports. I'm sure I don't have to get Jason's neck for me here. Item A for upcoming events at Shallowford Square. Material is in your item here. We've got, coming up, well, of course, we have Good Friday on the 29th of March. And then on the 27th of April, we're going to have a kickoff for movie night in the square. That movie night is going to be the Lorax, starting at dusk. And that is the items taken through the month of April.
I think they're one of the local organizations that is gonna sponsor a Easter egg hunt, if I'm not mistaken.
That could very well be. We normally only report on town events.
I think that's on the calendar, is it not?
The Road to the Pub Easter egg hunt is at the top of the list.
And that date is when?
Okay.
It's a very good name.
23rd.
23rd, okay. All right, good. Any questions, council, concerning the events at the square or the town holidays? All right, we'll go on to the next
All
item.
right, B1, this is a reminder again that Town Hall Day for the North Carolina League of Municipalities will be this month on the 27th of March. And at this particular time, both the mayor and myself will be making that trip to Raleigh to attend that event as well. All right, that concludes 11 for administrative reports. And then 12 for the good of the order. We again come to our second public comments.
Okay. It is the second opportunity for anyone in the public to address the council on items that we've covered tonight via the agenda or any other items that you might have on your mind. And like before, we just ask that you come forward to your microphone, state your name, your address, limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will not get in discussion over your input, but we'll take it into consideration. Is there anyone that would like to address council at this time? Okay. We'll close the public comment section and remind our public that we do have forms for written comments. That brings us to council comments for tonight. Anyone have
I just,
comments?
do we have any updates on the status of the bridge and the roundabout? And I was thinking of the bridge just from the standpoint of, I know that's been on the project list for DOT forever. Does the recent incident there move that up?
It's not to my knowledge that the recent events do anything to change the status of that bridge. I do, I think I fielded an email question from Councilman Lawson to the same effect.
Okay.
For that. Getting back to the roundabout, we have had some motion. I think the last time I reported on to you, we had a utility relocation easement that needed to be signed. I have been told by Duke Energy that they have been successful in getting that utility easement. Now we're trying to negotiate through the NCDOT for the requirements that the DOT may or may not have for Duke Energy and further approval processes regarding their utility easement. I have since received some comments that I need to then forward to Duke Energy, the DOT, does not feel they need to be involved in this process. So slowly but surely, we are chugging along on this one.
Any questions of the manager or anything else comment-wise from council? If not, thank you for tonight's attendance,
Okay.
deliberations.
Yeah, one thing.
Oh,
Before we do, Joyce Walker would like to go ahead and make the announcement on the tallying of the
Oh, yes. We're about to forget that. Thank you.
Okay, Parks and Rec Board, Marcy Gallman, Wayne Hall, and Kenneth Wernick prevailed. For the Planning Board, it was Jean Marie Foster, Randolph Henning, and Scott Mency. For your Willow Run Municipal Services District, Jeffrey Rawls, and for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Ronald Hutton. And those tallies will be in the minutes, so you'll see them actually come out.
Okay, thank you. And I think, do we follow up with all the applicants
Yes.
with a
Letters.
letter of appreciation of their interest and willingness to serve?
For those, yes, but for the ones who were reassigned, you know, I usually just send them an email to let them know that they're still on the board. Save the stamps.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.